2v2 on Ettelbruck Station. This game is Interloper and Silentbreacher versus Steel and Trisib, which means Steel and Trisib are in for probably a pretty rough game, since I'm pretty sure Interloper is the most prolific 2v2 US player in the game by like a huge margin. He is extremely experienced at US Forces 2v2s. I think he's clocked in at over 800 games. Pretty sure. Something like that. Or is it 800 wins? I don't even know. But it's a big number. It is a big number.
Get ready to displace.
Silentbreacher I'm not so familiar with. Interloper I can't really claim to be familiar with his style because he's played so many games that I'm pretty sure he's tried every imaginable style US Forces can claim to have. This particular game he's gone Armor Company, clearly, and opened with 2 Assault Engineers, which on most maps would be insane, but on this map makes a pretty decent amount of sense, since almost all engagements are going to happen at point-blank range unless you're in one of these weird locations. So, interesting choice. Silentbreacher has gone with Rifle Company. He's got some vet rifles making their way onto the field now. Steel has not chosen anything yet. His options are Lightning War, Encirclement, and Blitzkrieg. Trisib has Jaeger Armor, German Mechanized, and Assault Support. What is with German Mechanized popping up all the time? Do people actually pick this commander? It's pretty bad. But, alright, whatever. $820 wins, 513 losses. Thank you. Thank you for providing some exact numbers. Yeah, this guy loves the game. No doubt about that. He loves the game and he loves US Forces. He plays them even more than me, and that's saying something. Looks like the Americans are off to a great start, by the way, taking control of both fuel points here in the south. Riflemen taking control of all points down here. Munitions, fuel, victory points, all the resources have fallen to the Allies, and the Axis are struggling a little bit to deal with it. They have held on to 1 victory point, which is the most important thing, obviously, for Axis. At all points, you do not want to get triple capped. So the victory point bleed will be very slow. As of right now, the clock is ticking against them. Allies have taken control of the victory point here in the south, but it's not a big deal as long as they can hold just 1 victory point for the entire game. Grenadiers here in the south are going to get this fuel back under their control, but Interloper's Assault Grenadiers are making their way forward to counter. They will get caught by 1 squad of Grens here, but make their way up into close range. 1 squad runs into this barbed wire obstacle. The other will flank around the south. They have been upgraded with a flamethrower. Grenadiers vault the wall. Big flame crit right there, though, brings the squad low. These Assault Engineers flank around and will get into short range on these Grenadiers. The machine gun has not been turned about to engage. And these Assault Engineers are just going to force retreats and clean up everything and maintain control of this fuel even longer, which the Axis cannot afford. They need to get this fuel back in their hands as soon as possible, or they're never going to break this containment. We've got a mortar being fielded by Trisib, a mortar being fielded by Steel, both of them going with a mortar, bunch of machine guns, Grenadiers. It's double Oster versus WS Forces. You can tell that the pressure is huge, and they're really struggling to get rid of it, especially since both American players have chosen these really powerful early game commanders with 0 CP abilities, throwing vet rifles, Assault Engineers on the field, really struggling to keep it all at bay. Steel is trying to make a little space here by throwing some Grenadiers in some houses. Machine gun support trying to apply pressure in different areas of the map. Pull pressure away from the south. Looks like he might lose this full Grenadier squad here, though. Wasn't quite monitoring it, but it looks like it's going to get away. Just barely. Grenades have been teched by Silentbreacher, I think. I'm not sure. I didn't see who tossed that. Takes out a couple of machine gun. Yes, Silentbreacher takes out a couple of these machine gun crew members, but they will be alright for now. Have a building-to-building engagement happening here in the middle, and some retreating riflemen get gunned down by the Grenadiers in that house. Nice pickup by Steel. Machine gun set up in the road will probably be able to screen against these riflemen's advance, at least temporarily. They do get suppressed, but they also do have access to smoke grenades and regular grenades. But the mortars set up behind the Axis lines here are doing a nice amount of damage. Lieutenant almost gets wiped there as well. If one of these machine guns can just hit Vet 1, they'll have a way to fire on that M20 meaningfully, but unfortunately he's taken too much damage to feel comfortable doing so and will retreat. Big mortar hits continue here. Look at all these dead riflemen, forcing more retreats, and the Allies are getting pushed completely off the map. By shifting the focus of the Allies' engagements to these narrow corridors and buildings that they had control over, they were able to win an engagement, apply a little bit of manpower bleed, and most importantly, pull pressure off the south. Grenadiers taking control of the victory points, and Pios grabbing the munitions, prioritizing the munitions, by the way, interesting decision. While the Americans reinforce and heal back in their base.
Pioneers ready for assignment.
Allies are going to have to think carefully about their next engagement, make sure that their next push is a lot tighter than that one was. Can't just walk into machine guns like that, eat a bunch of Panzerfaust with their M20. Have to do a better job managing buildings, managing the threat of machine guns, and we already see smoke being deployed here to try and help with that engagement. Lieutenant moving up with rifleman support here to try and take out some grenadiers. Nice grenade toss. We could see that squad get wiped. Rifle squad is going to try and seal the deal on two grenadier squads retreating right now. Flame burst. Oh, doesn't hit anything! Wow, no lucky crits, and all three of those horribly wounded squads will get away by the slightest of hairs. He probably could have thrown a grenade at that squad into the retreat path. I'm not sure if it was off cooldown or not. He had just thrown one at the grenadier squad over here. If he could have tossed a grenade at that corner, he probably could have nailed at least one of those squads. Either way, the engagement is won for the Allies, and they will take back control of the center and south victory points. Axis still have a pretty decent hold here on the north, and they will secure building control with some grenadiers to bleed any Allied advance up to that area. Machine guns are being set up at a slightly more defensive location by the Ostheer to try and stop the Allies from advancing any further.
Infantry can march double time at your command.
Vet 1 just completed on this machine gun, but we will not see armor-piercing incendiary rounds loaded, and this M20 should easily be able to force a retreat here. Meanwhile, a fighting position apparently got constructed. It's going to go down just a small arms fire and mortars. Assault engineers will wrap up capturing here in the south, and Interloper has purchased himself a machine gun to go with his M20. Does force retreat from one of the machine guns in this area, and he's going to move to try to harass the fuel here further. S-mine field has been deployed on the fuel, however, which means any squad vaulting this green cover wall will probably explode. It's going to need to field a minesweeper to get rid of those, since the M20 cannot drive over them on this elevated platform. Oh, I think double Panzerfaust just connected with the M20 right here, and it's going to go down to small arms fire. He evacuates the M20, destroys it with the bazooka, and will continue to engage with his grease guns at short range while assault engineers move up from behind to support. Third squad of assault engineers making its way to the front line as well. Bazooka snipes a grenadier. This engagement will go to the Ostheer, however, as the machine gun has set up to suppress these two squads. This lone squad of assault engineers wants to try and bleed the advance of these grenadiers by getting a flame burst off on anything that goes around the edge of the train. But Trisib's having none of that. Nice rifle grenade placement, pops the flamethrower and wipes the whole squad. Lieutenant taking control of the strategic point here. Rear echelon troops are going to set up the triple cap. Once this will be the first time the Oster have been triple capped this entire game, which is why their victory point deficit is so small. But once that triple cap starts going, they're going to fall way behind. Incendiary rounds force the riflemen from the titular train station. Mortars set up in the road here are going to be pressured into retreating by a smoke grenade there, although this machine gun set up at a different angle actually manages to keep the suppressing fire going, and all squads will be forced to retreat. Oh, he does manage to trade quite nicely though. In exchange for that forced retreat, he nails a retreating squad of Pyos. They got caught way out of position. And that's the end of that squad, but he will be forced completely off the field. In the meantime, he has fielded himself a major. In fact, both US players have fielded a major, and from here we're going to see a lot of Shermans, is my guess. Scots are not actually all that bad on this map because of the narrow corridors, which cause squads to bunch up a little bit. But Jacksons really struggle. Jacksons really do struggle on this map a lot, unless you can convince your opponent to engage you along this glorious long road, or maybe here in this area, or maybe way down here on this long train track. Those are the only three locations really that a Jackson will do well. Otherwise, if you're fighting in this mess of buildings, if you're fighting anywhere up here in this clutter, Jackson will easily get hunted down, even by tier 3 Oster tanks. So it's really all about Shermans and Scots, I think, on this map. And for your anti-tank needs, you're better off utilizing the P-47, I guess? I don't even know. I don't even know what to say about that. Jackson's basically your only choice, so you're still going to make it. It's just not going to do that great unless you can convince your opponent to engage you in one of these nice open areas, which you might be able to. As usual, those Oster mortars are doing work this game. This one's already up to 5 kills. This one's up to 7. Vet 2 on that thing, forcing the Americans from buildings within seconds of them getting inside. Building control is very important on this map, and those mortars are huge in making sure that the Americans don't have it for too long. Nice grenade there in the south by Silentbreacher. Will pick up an MG42. Hopefully he will be able to utilize that to turn this engagement back in the United States forces' favor. He's got to get that turn to set up, but the Panzer Grenadiers close the distance too quickly. He's simply forced to immediately retreat. Fortunately, the flamethrower inside the train station does get a nice crit off on the Panzer Grenadier squad and force them to retreat as well. And as a result, the stolen MG42 will be able to retreat safely. A 50 cal setup inside of this building is taking heavy damage from mortars and grenades. It suppresses the MG42 over here, which doesn't accomplish all that much, and the incendiary rounds from these machine guns are inflicting devastating damage on all of these American squads, and everything's just getting shepherded right back to the American base. Oh no, we can see a huge rifle grenade right here. Major will be forced to retreat in this forward position. Takes heavy losses. Full squad of riflemen wiped, and they drop a flamethrower with which these grenadiers will be able to recover. Second major retreat point over here does have a machine gun set up, fortunately, and that advancing squad of grenadiers will be forced to retreat. This squad could get wiped if he doesn't notice it in time. Oh no! I think. That took longer than I was expecting it to, but yes, the squad does get wiped. Very late retreat.
Are securing our territory.
Full squad of rifles gets wiped as it attempts to harass the fuel over here. I think he stepped on S-mines. I guess he forgot about those. Actually, in all fairness, the The warning signs are kind of hard to see because they're like next to the next to these like other doodads on the map. Like this one's kind of camouflaged by the barrels. You could pretty easily just mistake that for an actual part of the map, I guess.
The enemy is attempting to steal our sector.
White phosphorus gets deployed on some of these anti-tank guns over here and forces them to reposition. Pretty heavy damage on that one in the north. This one's about half. And the first Sherman is off to a good start. 7 kills already. Wipes the Grenadier squad. Not really a great counter to it on the field yet. Oster map control has not exactly been great. So that Sherman definitely came out pretty quick compared to the Oster equivalents. Trisib has 200 fuel in the bank right now and has purchased himself a tier 3 structure. Meanwhile, Steel has 280 fuel and has gone Battle Phase 1, no tech structure. So it looks like he's just going to go straight for Tiger as soon as he has the command points to do so. And Trisib, surprisingly, doesn't have any tier 3 units despite having the structure and 200 fuel in the bank. He's just struggling too much for manpower. There goes another American squad, though. Wow, Interloper is just losing everything. Both to mortars and overextension of his infantry units, he's now been reduced to only this extremely damaged 50 cal, which also just got wiped. A vehicle crew with no vehicle. And a Sherman. He's throwing a new 50 cal and some rear echelon troops on the field now, but he's really struggling at this point. Silentbreacher has managed to keep all of his forces alive much more effectively.
Here it comes.
But rather than going with the Sherman, he went with an easy 8. Interesting decision considering he fielded a major. He hasn't made any tier 4 units, just the major himself for the forward retreat point, which still adds value, certainly in and of itself. But I'm surprised he didn't get a Sherman or a Scott or something. The need for he doesn't really need an easy 8 as much as he needs a nice hard counter to all of his infantry and team weapons. There are no enemy tanks on the field, so this is a purely preemptive decision. I'm not entirely sure it's necessary. Although stealing this mortar definitely is a big win for them. Hasn't hit anything yet, though. Sherman's been repaired and makes its way back to the front lines, and it's going to have to carry a lot of weight right now. It has a big burden to shoulder. Now that pretty much all of Interloper's infantry is dead. And I guess that's the risk you run when you go with assault engineers. You have to close the distance with them. And they just have a tendency to get wiped. They're a pretty fragile unit. And we're seeing that here, proving itself to be true. He does have a spare vehicle crew running around, so he throws some Thompsons on it because his M20 is dead. Hopefully he'll be able to get some value out of that, and if there is a map on which it's possible to get value out of Thompson vehicle crews, it's probably Ettelbruck Station.
Taking fire! Ground infantry! HMG squad ready for action. Armor ready. Damn it! Someone get us out of here!
Repairs on this Easy 8 complete, and they will move to re-engage. Squads in the center are applying a lot of pressure to the allies here. 2 squads of riflemen being forced to retreat. Ooh, Panzer Grenadiers taking a series of pretty big hits from these Shermans, though. And they are also going to be forced off the field, and the allies will get a little bit of territory back under control here in the south, largely unopposed for now. Not really anything in the area to protect, but still no sign of a minesweeper by either of the Allied players to clear up the S-mines on this fuel, so until that happens it's going to be rather difficult to harass. But I think that's the last thing on the Allies' mind right now, as they're just desperately trying to hold on to territory here in the center, and trying to attack through this gauntlet is never easy on this map. They're going to need to make a really effective coordinated push with all of their forces combined simultaneously, probably under cover of a smoke screen.
Enemy infantry has made contact! Scorching our eyes is all standing by!
Lieutenant finds an opportunity versus that MG, takes out one of the models and forces a retreat, and will be allowed to continue harassing the munitions here in the south. Meanwhile, this munitions point has been captured by riflemen as well, and the Allies are clustering most of their forces in the southwest for a big push towards the central victory point.
Kill 'em all! Taking fire, brother! Area clear!
Well, that's not good.
Just lost a unit.
Doesn't look like he was monitoring that engagement. Working on the center,
The capture point
he
is
does allow
under
his
attack.
lieutenant to get wiped, and he's also purchasing himself a Scott now. Hopefully in conjunction with his EZ-8 and his teammates Sherman, he'll be able to inflict some meaningful damage with that.
A capture point is under attack.
Yeah, there's a lot of float by Interloper. There's a lot of float on both sides. Steele's actually got 1,000 manpower and 360 fuel in the bank. He has well more than he needs for his first Tiger. Not sure why he hasn't fielded it. And Interloper is going to spend his existing resources on a bulldozer. Has gone armor company. The rest of his manpower remains unspent for now. I'm pretty sure he made 2 squads of assault engineers, a couple 50 cals, and just rear echelon troops and vehicles. He does have a stolen mortar. The fact that he hasn't, I don't think he's fielded a single squad of riflemen means he has a lot of spare manpower in the bank right now. Oh, and caches. And munitions caches. I think he's just trying to win without making any riflemen. But he needs to find other ways to spend his manpower if he's not going to make any riflemen at all. Squad wipe as soon as the bulldozer hits the field. It's off to a pretty good start. Scott clears out an AT gun too. Although Panzer Grenadiers upgraded with Panzer Shreks are going to do some pretty significant damage if that thing doesn't get clear. Fortunately, it does just in time. Sherman needs to get to safety now that it's done screening, and the bulldozer Sherman moving up is going to try and get some good shots off on these various anti-tank weapons. Clears the pack again, but does have to pull back to safety to avoid being destroyed by that anti-tank gun there. Both of Interloper's Shermans have fallen dangerously low and pulled back to safety away from that Panzer Grenadiers squad, which also came extraordinarily close to getting wiped. Bit of a gamble rounding that tight corner against a bulldozer there. He didn't even get to fire off a shot, so took a lot of manpower bleed. Really wanted to kill one of those tanks, but just couldn't quite make it work.
Krauts are sniffing around our asses. Tactical point being captured.
Engagement didn't go terribly for the Allies, inflicted some decent losses, but not enough to really decisively win the engagement, and they're still kind of falling back on map control. They're going to get triple capped here, and the Axis actually already have a 250-point lead over them. And Steele is still floating resources. He hasn't fielded a Tiger. He's actually buying a Panzer IV. Which is a little weird. Oh wait, no, Steele's not buying the Panzer IV. Trisib's buying. Their colors are so similar, I can barely tell the difference.
Panzer IV is ready for battle.
So Trisib goes with the Panzer IV. He has access to Tigers too. He hasn't even chosen his commander yet with 14 command points in the bank. But yeah, still no Tiger from Steele, strangely enough.
Securing our territory.
Pretty sure that would forced Interloper and Silentbreacher to spend their resources. They had to deal with a Tiger. Grenade will not have much of an impact. Rifle grenade on the MG brings it down to one man. Flamethrower closing the distance to clear it out. Meanwhile, down here, tanks are contending with an AT gun and MG. They should be able to win this engagement and re-secure control of that victory point. And a pack howitzer? Or Scott? That was a Scott, I guess. Is bombarding the center to the best of its ability. This EZ-8 has a destroyed engine and will probably not survive. There it goes. Panzer IV destroys it with the hits to its rear armor before pulling back. And riflemen trying to do something here in the center are not experiencing much success, and the Allies are down to only 73 points remaining. Pioneers defending this victory point have actually wired it off completely, and the Allies cannot get inside to slow the victory point bleed without upgrading with a minesweeper. Oh yeah, armor company artillery got dropped somewhere. I don't even know where. I wonder if it hit anything. I completely missed that happening. Riflemen in the train station trying to defend. This is the only victory point the Allies hold, and they have only 55 points remaining with which to orchestrate some sort of miraculous comeback, which I don't know how they're going to do. With Steel having 1,000 manpower, 500 fuel safety net in the bank worth of Tigers.
We're bleeding points like a stuffed pig. We're down to 50. The enemy is overrunning one of our capture points.
Cannot get into the capture circle.
We just got ourselves a
Stolen AT gun is set up here to fire on that Panzer IV. Shot connects, bringing it one hit from death. Bulldozer similarly is heavily damaged and must pull back for repairs. Really needs to throw a minesweeper. There it goes. Hazard removal package going up on the rear echelon troops, and he will be able to clip that wire and try and turn the clock against the axis. They only have 40 points remaining, and it does not look too good for them right now.
Rounds complete. Crowd's giving us some trouble here. Your goddamn fire! Commanders, be advised. Troop level barrage now available. BMG.
Riflemen are advancing to try and take control of the South VP, and I guess Interloper caved and started buying riflemen. Gets himself 2 squads, but still has 1,250 manpower in the bank that he absolutely has got to spend. If there's going to be any hope of the Allies winning this game, they're going to have to spend all their resources to do so. Only 25 points remaining, and they will stop the clock with a big advance on the southern victory point. A Panzer IV, a wounded AT gun, and a smattering of infantry is all that stands in their way. Jackson has been fielded by Silentbreacher, and like I said before, this is one of the few areas of the map where a Jackson can engage well. White phosphorus is being, or no, RNG bombs are being deployed on the anti-tank gun and supporting infantry. And RNG bombs. Oh ho! And they get a lottery win, wiping 2 infantry squads right there, and the white phosphorus will clear out the anti-tank gun for lucky shell impact. And then it lands way over here apparently and blows up a house. Maybe he dropped it on the bunker. That landed off screen. I have no idea where he targeted that. I have no clue. And then it landed way up here. What? How is that even possible? It wiped this. There's no way the radius is that big. Now I'm kind of confused about exactly what I witnessed. And then it landed right there. I guess he dropped it like somewhere in this area? I don't know.
Enemy tank is cutting us off! Sherman dozers have reached the front line.
Bulldozer moves up to engage, takes a shot at the repairing Pios, but the AT gun will scare him away. Panzer IV wipes his infantry squad. Vet 2 Sherman and Bulldozer have moved up to defend the South Victory Point, and the Allies cannot make a single mistake from this point forward. Finally, Steele decided to spend his resources and has fielded himself a Tiger. Riflemen have moved up to engage it. They don't get any lucky hits, but the Jackson and anti-tank gun have already brought it down to half health, and it will have to pull back a little bit. These infantry squads making their way to the front lines take a ton of damage from the Bulldozer and Sherman and Scott, and will be forced to retreat and get away with just a tiny amount of health remaining. AT gun tries to move up and get a line on these tanks, but will get cleared out by the Bulldozer after getting a few hits on the Jackson, I think, bringing it rather low. But all AT guns have been cleared here in the south. A squad of Pios moves up to try and recruit one of these things, and machine guns will pin down both squads of riflemen. Scott is bombarding this position from range, trying to decrew those machine guns if at all possible. And the stolen pack does a little bit of damage to that Panzer IV as well. Meanwhile, up here, a Bulldozer has been fielded to try to maybe destroy some of this wire or something. I don't know. It's just kind of sitting there for right now. Just setting up battle lines at this point. Axis have plenty of time. They're not in some huge hurry. 300 points. Lead. Doing great for resources. Massive fuel reserves. The Allies are on their absolute last legs and are holding on by a tiny thread. Jaeger armor just got chosen by Trisib so he could drop a Stuka dive bomb on the central point, and he actually decaps it by doing so. Allies should be able to get it back under control though. Big infantry push by the Axis. This could be the push that seals the game if they can get this VP. G43s actually walk past the vehicle crew in the capture circle to apply some damage to this pack. Rifle grenade damages it but does not decrew it, and they will retreat immediately from Scott fire. Riflemen with flamethrowers on the north flank will force retreats from more squads, and the Tiger is receiving repairs here behind this building. Panzer Grenadier forces a retreat from that machine gun, and anti-tank guns are moving up into the capture circle to try and get it under control. Getting a little bit aggressive here. They will be able to do some damage to that Sherman, but at the same time, they're going to be at risk of being wiped by these squads. Another dive bomb is being dropped somewhere. I missed it. I have no idea where that just landed. Somewhere. I don't know. Didn't hit these guys. Panzer Grenadiers are threatening to take control of the center VP. If something doesn't move to counter-harass them right now, that could be the game. Easy 8 moving up, Scott firing from range. Scott shots are all missing. Easy 8 shot connects beautifully, and the clock will be stopped once again. Tellermine in the road catches this Bulldozer, and a Tiger will be able to clean it up easily. Fortunately, there's nothing immediately nearby to follow up. The crew gets out to repair critical and tries to round that corner, but that Tiger's firing fast, and AT gun moving up to support will finish the job. Easy 8 and a huge blob of American infantry is trying to move to take control of the center VP, and white phosphorus is being dropped on the Tiger to prevent it from firing. Easy 8 takes a shot with the tag ground, and the shot does penetrate. Anti-tank gun fires in retaliation, but the shot does not connect. Here down in the south, Panzer IV, supported by Pioneers, is trying to get the victory point clock ticking again. If this gets captured, the Allies will start losing points, and they have only 25 left. Scott gets destroyed by an advancing Panzer IV, and with its V2 armor bonus, it seems to be too much for these Shermans to be able to handle. Especially that bulldozer can't really do anything. Interloper does have a Jackson in production, but it may be too late. The clock is ticking against the Allies once again, and they have only 19 points remaining when the clock will be stopped by rear echelon troops harassing the North VP.
Panzer IV! Tank destroyer is ready for orders. Rounds on! Hold the goddamn line!
Oster regrouping for another push. With only 18 points left on the board, the Allies must continue to hold and engage flawlessly. Allied push for the south gets shut down by Panzer IV and machine gun, which continue to defend, and Grenadiers are going to make a push for the central VP. Clock is now stopped. Tiger moves up to screen this Allied tank advance. The Jackson takes a shot. Stuka close air support just got called in here in the second, and Allied tanks will have to maneuver around it while simultaneously trying to defend the victory points. White phosphorus being deployed in this area to try and prompt retreats. But the Grenadier squad will stick in this capture circle long enough to get the point captured, and once that happens, the clock will tick against the Allies once again. Panzerfaust destroys an EZ-8 there. The center has fallen and the north is being taken. It looks like we are seeing the end of the game now.
Reconnaissance flight set to go.
There it is. That concludes the game. The Allies could not hold. In all honesty, I feel the Axis could have had a much more decisive victory if they just spent their resources. There's really no excuse for having 600 fuel in the bank as Ostheer. You have no shortage of things to spend your fuel on. Tech to battle phase 3 and get Panthers if you're really floating that crazily. They both had, well, okay, one of them had access to Tigers. Trisib probably not going to get an Elephant. Still, grab tier 4. Only operating on one Panzer IV for the entire game. It just doesn't make any sense. Americans were off to an excellent start, taking all the resource points all the way up to right outside the Ostheer base, but they were not quite able to seal the deal, and it's because of some pretty bad engagements here around the buildings, where they lost a lot of full squads to LMG Grenadiers, MG42s, good use of team weapons for sure by the Ostheer, and of course the crown jewel of the Ostheer Tier 1, the mortar. These mortars just shredded everything the Americans had, got some really nice mortar hits. So, pretty textbook stuff from the Ostheer in the early game. Americans had a good early push, and we saw some interesting, like, no rifleman opening from Interloper as well this game. So all in all, good game. Axis wins.